Thanks for having us so much. We're really happy to be here. We're excited. We're always excited to talk to our public health students out there. Excited about getting in the field of public health and learning a little bit about what we do as a public health agency, what our role is in the public health spectrum, and just the work in the communities of California. So I will go ahead and begin by sharing my screen, and let me just get this going here, make sure. Okay, everybody can see that okay? This is, I'm kind of new to Zoom, so we're all learning. Zoom has been great during this time, but very new to me, so if anything goes wrong, just let me know. So my name is Trisha Machado. I am obviously with the California Department of Public Health. I'm a recruitment analyst. I've been with public health over 2 years now. Previously, I was with the Department of Water Resources, which is another state agency. My civil service career spans over 7 years, all within the human resources element. So I was previously doing more specific departmental HR work, and now I'm enjoying my life as a recruiter, getting people to come to public health and get excited about the work we do in our mission. Just a fun thing I thought while we're introducing ourselves is talking a little bit about our life with COVID-19 now. We're at Public Health, we have work from home strategies in place, so I work from home 4 days a week. And I have realized tips to get me through working from home. My favorite tips so far are keeping cookie dough in the fridge and making cookies on demand every day, fresh cookies. That's super exciting. And then my other strategy is video chats with my coworkers, especially Mackenzie. I'm missing her in the office so much, so it's been so amazing to have her on my computer at home with me. And my biggest complications has been my dogs. I always thought I wanted to work with my dogs and have them go everywhere with me, and I'm realizing that is a huge challenge working from home with 2 big dogs who, when I bring up a Zoom conference, hear all these really great noises in the background and dings and people's voices they've never heard before, and they want to jump on Zoom and join me too. So that's why I'm not in my home today. I am here in an office space to give this presentation with you guys. And I would like Mackenzie to introduce herself. So I'll turn it over to her.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Mackenzie. I am also a recruitment analyst for the California Department of Public Health. I have been with CDPH for 1 year and 3 months about. Prior to Department of Public Health, I was working at CalPERS, which is California Public Retirement System. So my state career is just over 3 years now. I love working for CDPH. Like Trisha said, this is so new, working from home, everything's a little bit different, and I can definitely relate. I have one 14-pound dog, but she thinks that her permanent spot is on my lap or on my keyboard. So I love it. She's gonna have some big separation anxiety when I have to go back into the office once this is all over with. But yeah, we are here to kind of teach you guys about everything you need to know to get a state job, about a little bit about us. I'm going to do a intro to CDPH, talk about our values, our mission, and then after I'm done with my portion, Trisha's going to take the main chunk of the 1, 2, 3, how to actually get the state job, and I'll hop on the chat. So while Trisha's talking, if you guys have any questions, I'm going to be fielding the chat. Again, we'll also have a question time at the very end, but if you have something you don't want to forget it, feel free to just pop it in the chat and I will try to respond as quick as I possibly can, or if it's a longer one and I think a lot of people might benefit from the answer, I might save it till the end to make sure everyone hears it. So with that, anything else you wanted to add, Trisha, before we begin?
No, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so we are the California Department of Public Health, and our mission is to advance the health and well-being of California's diverse people and communities. Our vision is healthy communities with thriving families and individuals, and our central challenge is to make public health a key priority in California. So How does CDPH do this? Let's take a little look. So CDPH, there's over 300 programs that support the CDPH mission. A few of those, just to name them, are tuberculosis control, WIC, which stands for Women, Infants, and Children, and the California Birth Defects Monitoring Program. But there's over 300, so we have a lot more than just that. And then moving on, after our programs, we have a lot of locations. There's over 70 locations within the Department of Public Health. Have you guys ever seen the 1-800-GAMBLER signs on the side of the road? That's CDPH. That is actually our Office of Problem Gambling, so we put up those signs. Some of you might have also seen the Tobacco-Free California ads. Those are us as well. That is our California Tobacco Control Program. And then we also have those Flavor Hooks Kids ads as well, with the nicotine and the vaping and all those flavors attracting to kids. So our main goal is just to try to keep Californians healthy and prevent all of those things from happening. So let me move on to my next note here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so if you're familiar with those boards, that is all CDPH. I'm sure that everyone here has seen or heard Dr. Sonia Angel or Dr. Charity Dean in the news lately speaking about COVID-19 in California. You can often hear them referencing some of our teams, including our Center for Infectious Disease, which is playing a huge part in all the COVID-19 issues. And they have a staff in Richmond that is actually completing tests for coronavirus. So all of these centers and programs can be found on our website if you guys are interested in looking after this presentation. And I'm sure we'll have somewhere in here where we list that actual website, but it's cdph.ca.gov if you're interested. So to talk a little bit about our locations, we are statewide. About 1/3 of our workforce is in Sacramento, about 1/3 is in Richmond, and the rest is kind of spread throughout the state, but we are headquartered in Sacramento. And now let's talk a little bit about our employees. A part of what makes CDPH a great place to work is the diversity of the work we do. We have positions from entry level to executive, custodians, doctors, station engineers, environmental scientists, analysts. So anywhere from like the entry level position to your full-time career, we probably have something that you might be interested in. We have nurses, attorneys, and we have so many great areas to work in, a lot of which are very public facing. So a lot of the work we do can be seen by the public at any time. So moving on, we're gonna go to, let's talk a little bit about our centers, divisions, and offices. So CDPH is made of many divisions and offices. It's kind of a huge umbrella. We have our centers and then it breaks down. It's a big ladder. There's over 300 programs, like I said. A few of our biggest centers are Center for Healthy Communities, Center for Environmental Health, Center for Family Health, Center for Healthcare Quality, Center for Infectious Disease, Center for Health Statistics and Information or Informatics, and Administration. So we have just the everyday HR work as well. So we have a little bit of everything. And as you can see, CDPH centers have many different branches. They're dedicated to optimizing the health and well-being of people in California. So that kind of supports our mission. Out of those branches at CDPH, there's over 300 programs that support our mission. We are one of the biggest departments in the state of California. Public health systems are commonly defined as all public, private, and voluntary entities that contribute to the delivery of essential public health services within a jurisdiction. The public health system includes public health agencies at state and local levels, healthcare providers, public safety agencies, human service and charity organizations, education and youth development organizations, recreation and arts related organizations, economic and philanthropic organizations, and environmental agencies and organizations. So as you will see throughout this presentation is we do a lot. There's some departments that like you will hear about Franchise Tax Board. They do taxes. I used to work for CalPERS, California Department of Public Health, just so much more than most departments. We're huge. We have our hand in everyday life for Californians. So with that, I do want to teach you guys a little bit about the 10 essential public health services. So they're divided into 3 different categories. So we have assessment, policy development, and assurance. And then we also have, at its core, you'll see in the middle of that diagram there, it's called system management, which is basically all of the research that we do, which plays a huge part in CDPH, and it's kind of the heart of our work and what we do. So to see kind of an example of how this plays into actual work, okay, what does this mean? So let's talk a little bit about coronavirus. So the three categories that fall under assessment, the services. So we must monitor the health of the community and identify health issues and risks. We identify and diagnose those health issues, such as COVID-19, and then we need to investigate it. Why is it spreading? Where did it come from? Who is it affecting? So that's the really important first piece of the 10 essential functions. Then we move on to policy development. So based on our assessments, we begin to develop the policies. We need to inform, educate, and empower the Californians. As you probably have seen, the governor and Dr. Sonia Angel have been doing daily, weekly updates, providing statistics, information, new developments. This is such a new issue we have going on right now. So it's really important to keep our citizens and Californians informed and safe. And then a way we do that is we mobilize community partnerships. So for an example, we have our own lab in Richmond, our laboratory in Richmond, but through the coronavirus outbreak, we have partnered with private sector labs to get some of these tests going and moving at a quicker pace. So currently right now there's, I think 18 laboratories in California testing for coronavirus. So we've partnered with a ton more, and then our laboratory in Richmond is also doing testing. And then after that, you move on to the assurance part of this. After policy development, this is the enforcement portion of regulatory compliance that's really needed to protect the health of Californians. We need to link people to needed services, provide resources to healthcare information, and making sure we have a plan in place. And then we evaluate to ensure that the quality is, to ensure quality improvement. So we did all this work, now we need to make sure it's actually working and everything's running smoothly. And then finally, again, at its core is system management, which includes all the resource and researches and sharing of best practices. So just to make sure that all of our data is correct, and that we've given it out to the right places and that everyone's informed. So we fall under the California Health and Human Services Agency. It's called CDPH. They oversee departments, boards, and offices that provide a wide range of healthcare services, social services, mental health services, alcohol and drug treatment services, public health services, income assistance, and services to people with disabilities. So you can see that long list of 12 different departments that fall under Health and Human Services, and we are one of them highlighted in red. A couple that you might be familiar with are a Department of Social Services, Department of Rehabilitation, Department of Aging. So there's 12 different departments that uphold the function of Health and Human Services. Yeah, so if you have any questions, that was kind of my portion about talking about CDPH. I know that was a lot. I'm gonna go hop on the chat. Trisha's gonna take it from here, but if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I will get back to you either now or at the end.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. So now we're going to kind of get into, we learned a little bit about public health and what we do and where our agency stands in the spectrum of public health. Obviously, there's a big spectrum of federal, the World Health Organization is global. You have the CDC at the federal level, and then you have us at the state level. We are definitely a leading public health agency. We're coming into our 150th year, so this is kind of an exciting time to see how far we've come and other diseases that we've tackled thus far as we're working through COVID-19 and coronavirus. We've been here before, we'll be here again. This is the work that we love to be doing and helping Californians. So maybe you're interested in how you can come in and work for public health after you're done with your education, or maybe even some of you are eligible right now if you're thinking about working while educating. So let's just go through some of the steps, and it is a little bit of an overwhelming process. I do want to put that out there. We know it's complex, it's confusing, it's not simple and smooth by any means, but we're happy to help you and answer questions as we go through this. I know sometimes it's easy to just throw a question in the chat. Like Mackenzie said, we are going to be answering questions at the end as well, or sometimes saving questions at the end for if we feel like it would benefit everyone instead of just answering it quickly in the chat. So let's get started looking at some of the steps to apply. We're going to start with kind of a general overview of each step. And as we do, we'll be talking about some terms very specific to civil service, which we will try to define as best as possible as we're going through the presentation. But it's not really meant to be a step-by-step training on how to use the Cal Career application system. Cal Careers is a site that is for all individuals looking to apply to any state agency, so it's not our own system that we own and manage. So we just like to make that disclaimer up front. This is a great little tutorial, but it's always going to be changing, and it's not our system that we own particularly, so just kind of take it with a grain of salt. We're going to try to be as helpful as possible for this process, but you know, it's not something that we own, so things could change at any time. Just be aware of that as we go through. So there's 3 steps to apply. The first step is creating your Cal Careers account. Your second step is taking and passing an examination, which I think I saw a question already in the chat about that, which is where a lot of people get hung up on that step too. It's kind of confusing. And then step 3 is applying for the jobs. And we are going to talk a little bit about even beyond that, providing a few civil service interview tips at the end as well. So let's get started with step 1. Step 1 is creating your Cal Careers account. Some of you might have already done this step. You might already have an account created, which is great. If not, we're going to take you through what that looks like to create it. The Cal Careers website and account system is managed by Cal HR. You'll see their logo at the bottom of the screen. It's been in place now for a couple years, probably going into about its 3rd year, being really strong on the online scene. But they're always updating, always improving, making changes. So the process is getting better as we go. The website is used by all state departments, so you only need one Cal Careers account to apply to any agency job across the state of California at the state level. Having an account will help you manage the application process from start to finish. You can search and apply for jobs and examinations, set up notifications for job postings, update your employment preferences, and so much more. So if you haven't already created your account, you'll want to go ahead and get started by clicking that Create Account icon. Otherwise, if you have, you'll be logging in on the right-hand side there with your username and password that you've already set up. So let's take a little bit of a deep dive here. Once you've logged in, you've created that account, this is what you see when you do log in. This is kind of your home base page. The most important thing that we can't stress enough is keeping your contact information current, including your email address or phone numbers that you have listed there. This is the only way departments are able to reach out to you when they are interested in hiring you. So if something is old or out of date or an invalid email address, we have no way to get a hold of you to let you know that we're interested in you. So it's super important to keep this information of your account as up to date as possible at all times. So let's see, let's talk a little bit about what each of these functions on the left-hand side here mean. Your application template section is where you can create your actual application, which is what you would be using to apply to jobs with. You can create up to 10 different application templates. We're going to talk a little bit more about that step in a second. And then also down the side here, you'll see some items for job applications, which is where you're going to have a history of all the jobs you've applied to throughout your Cal Careers account history. So you can always go back and reference what you've already applied to or what you're waiting on hearing back from. You can also save jobs while you're searching and going through your job search. You can save jobs to your account to reference back to at a later date. You can also have an area of saved searches or email alerts built in for you that will let you know when jobs become available. And then at the very bottom, there's a messages portion, which you may receive messages within your account for exams, or if you've applied to positions, people reaching out to you. Basically, that is an area that will kind of, it'll alert you, but it'll alert you in your email that you have synced up with your account, but you'll still have to log in to go in and see those messages. So it's not always the most user-friendly way to reach out to people. That's why we highly encourage you to keep your other avenues open. And then, of course, if you recall, this is all managed by CalHR. So if you have any issues with your core account here, we ask that you do reach out to CalHR with questions or support for any issues that you may have, including lockouts or glitches, anything like that. We will provide their contact information at the very end for you, so you have that. Keep that handy. If you run into any problems, you can always reach out to their tech support. So now we talked a little bit about that, the templates, the application template, the standard 678. Let's take a look at what that is and why it's so important. So the state of California uses the application standard 678 for jobs and examinations. So this is the same form for both things, which is very confusing for a lot of people. But what you're going to have to do is some examinations, when we talk about the examination portion, some examinations require you to fill out this application and mail it in to take the assessment. And then every job will require you to fill this out and submit it if you're looking to apply to the position. This is always required. For every job that's on CalCareers, you will need to fill out, complete, and submit a standard 678. So both jobs and examinations require standard 678. Just remember that. It's confusing because you would think it would be different, but it's not. Let's take a look at what completing an application template actually looks like in real time and why it's so important. So when you're going to start completing an application template, you go within your account. There's a button there that says create new template. You can save up to 10 different templates within your account. So you might have templates for maybe you're looking to get into a research scientist classification. You would want to set up a template that caters to that specific classification and speaks to your research skills, your background within research, education, experience, all of that. You can cater that and then title it maybe research scientist 2, whatever the classification is, whatever helps you remember that that template is for that specific area of work that you're trying to get into. Maybe you want to create a separate template if you're looking to get into a supervisory or managerial role that speaks to that level of experience and education. The example on my screen right now is an analytical application template. So I created a template for applying to analytical level roles, so associate governmental program analyst or staff services analyst. Those are the staff services analyst especially is a great way to come in with the state because all you need is a college degree, so it's a great way to get your foot in the door. But creating those templates and catering them to the specific positions is so incredibly important. If you guys don't take anything away from this presentation today on how to get a state job, take that away. That's the one nugget of information that is just so valuable that most people don't realize is making sure that every time you're applying, you're creating a customized application that looks and feels like it's for exactly that position. Hiring managers want to see that you are interested in that classification, you're interested in that position, and they want to see that you've customized your application to cater to that, because so many times people just create one application and blast it out to all positions, and it looks very off when it comes through to a hiring manager. It doesn't relate fully to what they're looking for or speak to the necessary skills and experience that they're seeking. So super important. cater your templates, cater your applications. We're going to say that 1,000 times as we go through this presentation, but we cannot let you know enough how important that is. So going through creating the template, there's 3 basic areas. There's the entry. The first step is just some generalized questions, which is formatted for everyone exactly the same. You go through, you answer a couple basic questions about you know, your eligibility and your preferences if you're utilizing this template to take an exam, all that kind of stuff. So going to go through. The second one is education. You'll be listing all of your education, and if you have any special licenses or certifications that are applicable to the position. And then finally, the last one is your experience, and that's where you're going to be entering the information, which is so critical for hiring managers to review, about why you're qualified for the position and how you meet the minimum qualifications for the position. So when you're outlining that experience, a couple helpful hints. You want to be thorough and accurate, so you never want to embellish beyond what the truth is. You want to be detailed and very specific, so you're highlighting specific things related to what the post is calling out for in an experience in education. Maybe they're looking for somebody who has their master's of public health. You want to make sure that you have that on your application built in, because if it's not reflected there, you could be overlooked or screened out as not meeting the minimum requirements for the position. You want to explain any uncommon terms, so avoid using acronyms or company-specific, like proprietary verbiage that someone might not understand who wasn't familiar with that internal business structure. Don't use any bullet points. Avoid that. We want to see things written out. Hiring managers love to see how well you can communicate and write. So when you're creating your application, you want to express that skill as completely as possible. If there's bullet points, it doesn't come across as a good communication style. It's too brief, it's too abrupt, it doesn't show syntax, grammar, sentence structure. Make sure that you're really writing everything out. And then of course you can always consider attaching additional documentation, especially for some of our positions. They require a lot more. They're going to call for a lot more on the posting of what hiring managers want from you, how you can prove that you're a great candidate. So you can always add on additional information if the field on your application isn't enough. So once you've completed that, the 3 sections like we talked about, the general questions, the education, and then the experience, you're going to have the go back to you've completed your template, you've saved it, you want to review it in its whole. So you're going to want to export the job application to a PDF to review in its entirety and make sure that it looks cohesive and makes sense, because remember, you're building this kind of in a module format through the template, so it's not going to look as complete when you're building it as when it's done. You can view it in its entirety like this. All these boxes that you're seeing on the screen are pieces that you're putting together as you're building your template. But when you view it in a PDF format, it's all coming together. So you can reference all the information one more time, give it a really good final proofread, make sure it looks great, make sure it's something you want a hiring manager to see. Quick tips again, you're listing important duties first. You really want to make sure that you're showing a hiring manager that you are skilled, you're proficient, you're eligible, you're the right candidate. So you're listing that most important stuff first. You're not using any bullets or unnecessary spaces or returns. They did just update this field, the duties performed section. They just updated this to have a higher character count than previously. So now it's able to hold a lot more information than it did before, which is really great. And you also want to provide additional documentation if this area is not large enough for you to encompass all of what you want to show to a hiring manager. So something else, if you want to add additional documentation, or sometimes transcripts are required on job postings, or a resume might be required, you'll need to upload additional documents within your CalCareers account. to make that happen. And what you do is you just reference that on the left-hand side, the uploaded documents section. And then at the bottom, there's a button there that says add a document. And that's where you just upload it. Pretty simple. Grab it from either your desktop or wherever you have it saved, and then add it to your account. Now, this doesn't automatically add it to the job application. You will when you're doing the job application process, which we'll go through in our third step, our 3 steps of getting a state job. Remember, creating your account, taking an assessment, and then applying to jobs. When we talk about applying to jobs, we'll talk about this step again, making sure that we're going back in and pulling from this uploaded documents section. This is just a holding area in your account, so it does not automatically grant access for hiring managers to review the documents that are sitting here. You still physically have to attach them to your application for them to be seen by hiring managers. So let's move on then to step 2. This is, like I said, kind of the messy area of where most people get hung up with, is taking and passing examinations. The state of California has a merit-based hiring process, which ensures that all state hires and promotions are based on merit. Therefore, in most cases, it requires you to take and pass an examination for the specific job type, or what we reference as a classification, which is essentially like a job title. Most jobs, based on the classification, we're going to get into what a classification is and dig that down a little bit deeper in a second here. But on the CalCareers website, you'll notice that as you search for jobs and examinations, they're all based off of the classification title. So that's what you're looking at as you're going through the system. So just a couple quick examples. This is kind of a lengthy slide for me to get through, so I apologize. We're going to be sitting here for a minute talking about this, but it is really important to explain the varying types of examinations and processes required to get eligible to apply for positions with the state. And again, this speaks to all agencies, so maybe even if you're not, we hope you're interested in public health and you want to come work for public health, but if you're not, if you want to maybe go into social services or one of those other agencies, one of our sister agencies, or maybe you get a wild hair and you decide you don't really want to do health anymore. Maybe you want to work for water resources doing environmental issues or something along those lines. This process works for all state agencies. So this is just a blanket process for everyone. This is not specific to public health. So let's dive into this very exciting and lengthy slide. So examination requirements and testing methods vary by classification. So here I've just given an example of 3 different classifications. So we'll start with the first one, which is the Associate Governmental Program Analyst. And this example is of a examination type that is a self-questionnaire, essentially. It's what we like to call like a self-assessment. For lack of a better term. The format is online and the time frame or deadline is ongoing. Sometimes we also reference that as a final filing date in that last category there. So for the Associate Governmental Program Analyst or the Staff Services Analyst, which is a great way to come in with the state as well. These are online. They're put on by CalHR. They're a CalHR administered exam. They're always available night or day. You just hop on through your CalCareers account, search for that examination, which I'll show you guys in a second how to search for the appropriate examinations, and then just take it. You immediately get your results. You know if you're eligible, you know where you stand, and you can immediately start applying for jobs. So that type is the easiest. The next one that you'll see here is the Associate Public Health Biologist. That examination type is a training and experience packet. The application and packet must be mailed in together, and it has a final filing date. For this particular one, for the Associate Public Health Biologist, the final filing date is August 14th of 2020. So what that means is if you see a position for an Associate Public Health Biologist that you're interested in, you would need to take this assessment by submitting, I believe it is your standard 678, that application that we talked about. You would have to submit that along with your transcripts that prove you meet the minimum requirements for the position. That whole package must be mailed in to CDPH. This is a CDPH specific exam. This is an examination that we administer in-house. Our department administers it, our exam team administers it. So you have to email that in to us to gain eligibility. We review your application package, we make sure you meet the minimum requirements for the position, and we then score you and let you know you are eligible or you are not eligible. And that process is fairly lengthy. That can take up to 6 to 8 weeks after the final filing date. So we see the final filing date here, August 14th, obviously. That means you might not have eligibility for this classification until late September, early October, somewhere in there. And that can really impede your success in getting hired if you wanted a position that was posted today, because obviously you wouldn't have eligibility as of today unless you had previously taken this exam already. So very important to keep on top of what examinations correlate with what positions you want, because you might have to seek out and complete your examination process ahead of, very, very ahead of when you're looking to apply to the position itself. The third example here is the Nurse Consultant 2. That is an education and experience exam. The format is a SurveyMonkey link, and it has also another final filing date. This one is administered, I think, every 2 to 3 months. So the next upcoming one is in June. I think we just missed one in early April, was a previous final filing date, or late March, maybe March 31st, I believe, was a previous final filing date. So the next administration is going to be June 30th. So again, what does that mean? The Nurse Consultant 2 exam is administered by the Department of Healthcare Services, which, if you remember from that list when Mackenzie was talking, is one of our sister agencies. And a lot of times we partner with our sister agencies or other agencies in the state of California to help administer some of the examinations, because one agency cannot administer all the examinations that are required. So we hook up with these other agencies. We tag team of, if you guys are going to do the Nurse Consultant 2, we'll take on maybe the associate public health biologist, and you guys can use our eligibility list for that classification that we administer, and we'll use your eligibility list for the Nurse Consultant 2 that you guys are administering. So we're kind of sharing an eligibility list there amongst agencies, and it helps keep us more efficient in the work that we do and specialize in the exams that we need to specialize in. So for this particular one, like I said, it is the education and experience. So what does that mean? You're completing the package, which is required on an exam bulletin, which gives you the instructions on how to apply and what is needed to apply, along with the minimum requirements for the classification, which we'll talk more about in a minute. This exam is going to be based on your education and what information you've provided on your experience. If it's reviewed, so you're submitting all of that by the final filing date of June 30th. It's reviewed by staff, and if the staff determine that you do meet the minimum requirements for the position, they then will send you a link to an exam to complete online. So it's a two-step process, essentially. You're applying to the exam, you're waiting to be found if you are eligible to take the exam, and if you are then actually completing the exam. What does that mean? The process is actually a lot longer than that. It's drawing it way farther out than just the previous one, which you just applied and sent your application and packet to. You were either found eligible or ineligible, and then within 6 to 8 weeks after the final filing date, you were given your eligibility or not. This third one, because of that additional step, it's even farther out. It's maybe beyond the 8 weeks, because there's going to be some assessments. You're going to be found either qualified or not qualified, and then you're going to be sent a link, and then the link comes back, and then you are scored, and then you get your results. So it's a very lengthy process. Exams are really kind of the bane of civil service existence. They're very frustrating, very confusing, but we are here for you. And at the end as well, there will be a contact information to reach out to us if you have questions, especially with our exams that CDPH administers, you can always reach out to us and we can kind of guide you more one-on-one as you go through those specific exams because almost each one is different. Like I said, there's kind of groups of some exams are online, Cali administered exam, but if they're department specific exam, it's going to be more complex and you definitely want to have the right processes in place. Mackenzie, do you want to jump in?
Oh, so sorry to interrupt. We were just hearing some staticky audio quality. So just wanted to take a pause and see if we might be able to troubleshoot. If needed, another option would be to call in case that can improve the audio.
Okay, it's still staticky right now?
Yeah, it's sounding a little bit staticky on your end for some reason. It just started just a couple minutes ago.
If she can't call in, I can most likely take over from where she's at for a little bit. Let me just find where she's at on my notes here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine for a bit, and then now it's come a little foggy.
Yeah, it was totally fine. Trisha, I will send you the audio info just to make sure you've got that to see if you could call in.
I can definitely call in.
Okay, awesome. And I know we're at, wanted to make sure you got through the examination since that's a really important subject that we're so glad you addressed. And so let me send that to you, and Mackenzie, I'll hand the mic over your way.
Okay. So, Trisha, sorry, I was in the chat a little bit. Did you finish this slide? I was just typing a message as you were going over this one. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So now we're going to go back to the Cal Careers website, and this is actually how you're going to search for the job. So when you go to the Cal Careers website, this is the homepage, and you can see highlighted or circled in red, it says exam/assessment search. So that's where you're going to click. And then once you find you'll see a next page come up, and it'll ask you, you can put in location. It will ask you what classification you want. If you're looking for a certain salary, you can put that information in, and then you click search, and then it'll come up with the exam posting that you are looking for. And this is what we call the exam bulletin. So you'll see two areas circled in red here. One at the top is a classification description, where you'll find information about the minimum qualifications, but we're going to talk about that more in just a moment. So to actually view the official exam bulletin, you're going to click on that click here that's circled in red, and then the first two letters are hyperlinked to the actual bulletin. So once you click on that, it's going to bring you to the official bulletin, which looks like this. So here is where you can find information on the salary, final filing dates, minimum qualifications, how to apply, exam information, or conditions of employment like locations and type. So if you see on the right here, we're looking at what we call our classification as our health facilities evaluator nurse classification. So yeah, if you look down there, it'll say the department, and then it'll say the opening date, the salary, employment type, we hire perm, full-time, we hire everything like that, all the different types of permanent, full-time, intermittent. So we'll just talk about conditions of employment, basically. All exam bulletins are located on the Cal Careers website, but we do also list them on our CDPH jobs page, which we'll show you a little bit about later. So just to talk about some tips, because the exam portion is a huge portion of the application process and it is important. One of the biggest tips that we have is to follow all the directions. Like Trisha said, the exams are all different. So one could be completely different from the next. You might have just taken 5 exams and you're getting to your 6th one and you're like, oh, it's so different. So it's important to read every step. And then it's also important to provide documentation to verify that you meet the minimum qualifications. So for example, transcripts, published articles, licenses, board certifications, anything that HR asks for when in those minimum qualification section that we'll show you in a bit, make sure that you are submitting that. And then when you go to actually take the exam, you want to make sure that you review any study guides or take any practice quizzes, such as the one found for the office technician and general and typing. There's a huge study guide for that. Please note that there is one bulletin for both of those classifications. Sometimes multiple applications are necessary for applying to multiple applications, or multiple examinations, I mean. Another thing we really want to highlight is to make sure if this is an exam that you have to send in a physical application for, make sure that you're clearly marking it exam, because we do still accept paper applications for jobs as well, because not everyone has access to computer and internet and things like that. So make sure if you're ever printing out an exam and sending it in physically to the California Department of Public Health, make sure you're putting exam on it. So when our HR receives it, we know exactly where it needs to go, because final filing dates are so important. So the faster it gets to the right people in HR, the better. So if you can just write exam on all your apps, that would be great. And then also you need to be alert for requests for additional information. So if we receive your examination application and you either forgot to put your transcripts in, or we need some more information on some duties that you had at a prior job, we will reach out to you. They may be mailed to your home with a due date in which you need to respond. So typically we'll reach out and say, hey, we need more information. You have until this date to get that information to us. Please respond by then, so we can process things timely and keep things moving forward. And speaking of the minimum qualifications, all those things you guys need to send in, besides the examination bulletin, you can review the minimum qualifications at the classification description. So if we kind of look back to where we were before and click on classification specifications, you can see what's on the exam posting and all. And once you click that, it'll list pretty much everything. It'll go down. There's a couple different patterns. Sometimes they're hard to understand. Some of them make it almost seem like you have had to work for the state before, but for most classifications, there's going to be a second option in all of that. So this is kind of what that looks like, what I was just talking about. A classification specification will give you an overview and key information about a classification or series of classifications, and you will want to review these carefully. So it describes the classification series. Classifications are sometimes grouped together. For example, the Health Facilities Evaluator Nurse series includes several different classifications. So it starts at the very lowest level and it works all its way through management. So if you were starting out with the state, you'd start probably at the bottom and you'd work your way up until you become a Health Facilities Evaluator Manager. So those are kind of the steps, and that's what a series is. It provides room for growth and promotion. And then they'll also note typical tasks for the classification. So you may not be doing exactly not all jobs are going to be exactly the same, but these are kind of the typical tasks. This classification is going to be doing this sort of work most of the time. And then minimum qualifications, which is probably the most important part on the classification specification. They're listed for all levels in each classification. So like I was stating a little bit ago, most classifications have either an internal path, meaning you're using state experience to get the position, or an external path, which means you can use a combination of outside experience and education. So there is a way to get into a lot of the positions if you have worked for the state or if you haven't. And let's see, Tricia, were you able to get on? I did see you calling. I don't want to. No, she's muted. I think she's still.
Can you guys hear me now? Is it okay? Is it not okay? Okay. I am noticing there's when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat and I have to pause. So I'm like going back and forth. It's like this kind of weird tech mess. But if you guys can hear me, then I will go on. Let me clear some updates here. I think I paused my presentation, but let me make sure I'm back. Okay, cool. So You guys, let's see, let me get picked back up here. So Mackenzie, you were just talking about the classification specifications and how important they are in providing information on what's required for the different classifications and how that relates to what you'll need to put on your application. We always encourage everyone to have the classification specification up and be referencing it as you're completing your templates, both for exams and positions, so that you can see what the levels are, what the expectations are at the different levels, and what's required overall. I apologize, let me just get synced back up here with a couple different, got my notes in a different spot going, and I've got my current presentation going on my laptop here, so I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. I did see a lot of questions while I was in the chat, and we will address those towards the end, unless Mackenzie is able to reach out and reply. As you're going, just want to make that a reminder, we're not ignoring you. Okay, so let's talk about passing an examination. So once you complete an examination, you've followed the processes outlined on the exam bulletins, and you've received your eligibility, congratulations, you've passed for whatever it might be. You have a certain time of eligibility that your eligibility is active. So it might be a year, it might be 24 months, 2 years. Your results will let you know. Every time you complete an exam, it will let you know how long that you are eligible for. And then, of course, once you take a position for that classification, then it removes your name from that eligibility list, and you then, once you pass probation in that position, you have end of lifetime eligibility. If you take the exam and you don't pass, retesting is limited as is stated in the examination bulletin. It also should let you know on your results when you are eligible to retest again if you didn't meet the satisfactory level to obtain employment. It will let you know. Also, your eligibility may be noted in your CalCareers account. Again, for all those exams that are online and ongoing, all the CalHR exams, they are going to automatically kind of pop up in your account and reflect your eligibility. Obviously, mine is old because this is an image from my account, so mine says that I'm inactive or expired because I've been in my position for quite some time. But your status will reflect what you are for what class title of position you have taken an exam for at the time. So let's talk a little bit about step 3, which is, of course, applying for jobs. And this is kind of the most exciting part because it is the fruits of all your labor up to this point. It's what you're trying to go for. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about looking for positions. You might already have something in mind that you've seen, or you might have completed your examination, got that out of the way, and then now you're beginning your job search. Whichever it might be, there's a couple different options. You can jump onto the CalCareers website and do a job title or keyword search, which is that giant bar across the screen. You could just throw whatever you want in there, see what comes up. Kind of is a little more liberal and free-spirited way to search, or you can do an advanced job search, which is going to be more specific. Maybe you want to highlight a specific department like public health. You want to go in there and just put in public health and see what public health jobs are available. Maybe you're looking by a specific classification. You want to be that public health biologist, so you're going to put that in and only look at those specific jobs, and that'll give you every public health job across every state agency in California. So that's going to be a little bit broader. You can filter it down however you'd like, or you can just do a basic geographic job search and see what's available in whichever county you're most interested in working in. So once you've done your search and you've found something you're interested in, here the example is a training coordinator position. you're going to kind of review what's on the job posting. This is super important for you as you're reviewing jobs that you want to apply to. When you're looking at the job posting, you want to make sure you're reviewing the critical information you need related to that position. So you're going to find information which tells you the salary for the classification, any final filing dates, which the final filing dates are going to be specific to this job posting, the minimum qualifications, which are specific to the classification specification, which we mentioned, making sure that you review that and familiarize yourself with what those minimum requirements are for the position and what is expected in that role. There's also going to be a duty statement attached to the job posting, which gives you an even further in-depth look at what this specific position does within this classification. It's also going to give you steps on how to apply, desired qualifications, and what documentation is required to apply. Something that's really important to remember, especially within the CalCareers system, is that final filing dates, we get this question a lot, final filing dates for electronic applications are 11:59 p.m. So you must, if today was the final filing date, I would have to apply by 11:59 p.m. If I was mailing in my application, I would have to have it postmarked with today's date. So either one of those are very important to remember as you're applying. And something else that I like to highlight is you can see here there's an area on the kind of right-hand upper corner below the Apply Now button. You can actually save this job to your CalCareers account. If, say, you're reviewing, you found a really cool job, but you don't have the full time to apply and update your template to apply right now, you can save it to your account, go back later, open it back up, and apply.
Tricia, I'm just going to interrupt really quickly. I just want to let people know that it is 12:59, and we had said we were going to wrap up at 1 o'clock. So it looks like we're going to go over. I know Caitlin and I are good to go over. Are you and Mackenzie good to go over?
We are good to go over, yes.
So we're going to continue, and if people do need to hop off, just know that we are recording.
Okay, great. I apologize
Quickly, I just want to mention, if you are hopping off, if you cannot stay, we'll have this information at the end, but if you do have any more questions, you can reach out to us at our email. I answer it as well as Tricia and our manager. And it's pretty simple. I'm going to put it in the chat here. It's apply@cdph.ca.gov. So I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So if you do have to go ahead and shoot us any questions that you might have that you weren't able to get your answers to. All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
Tricia.
so we'll also kind of speed up this a little bit as we're going through so we can get to answering some of those important questions at the end. So just some of the additional documentation that may be required, a statement of qualifications, which is going to be addressing the candidate's education, training, skills, and experience as they relate to the duties of the position, that duty statement that I talked about that's attached to the position, and the desired qualifications that are outlined on the job posting. Also, the supplemental questionnaires, candidates' answers to specific questions that are noted on the job posting, any published or peer-reviewed articles, resumes, cover letters, writing samples, or typing certifications. Those are just other examples of things that may be required. So applying for a job, obviously we talked about that Apply Now button within your CalCareers account. Applying electronically is the easiest and most recommended way to apply. Very important because we do still receive a lot of mailed-in applications, but applying electronically definitely supersedes a lot of problems that we have with lost applications or getting your applications later or anything like that. If you're able to apply online, we highly recommend it. If you're not, it's okay to still submit your application by mail, but we always encourage electronic application if possible. So again, you're just clicking that Apply Now button. When you're applying for a job, you're going to use a template that you've already built and edit it to customize it to the position, or start a blank application. So start by building a brand new template like we talked about. You're going to be noting your eligibility, therefore what exam you've completed to gain eligibility, or whatever you need to put in there to make sure that a hiring manager understands that you are eligible for the classification. You're attaching any required documentation, and then you're going to submit the application. And once you do that, You cannot go back and edit it anymore. Again, if it's asking you to attach any additional documentation, that's where you're going back to that uploaded documents section of your account, grabbing those documents and then pushing it through as you apply. Some quick interview tips for civil service. That wraps up kind of the 3 steps we talked about: creating your account, taking and passing an examination, and applying to jobs. But we want to touch on some interview tips really quick as well, because it is kind of specific to the civil service hiring process. It's a little different than other interviews that you might be accustomed to. We always recommend researching the department and the position prior to the interview. You want to review the duty statement and print any documents that were provided to you. During an interview, when they're scheduling an interview, they'll send out an email to you, sometimes with some extra information. You want to print that, have it ready, so that you can review it and be prepared. You might have an additional assessment during the interview. You might be asked to do a writing sample when you show up. Sometimes hiring managers want to make sure that all the work that you submitted as you were applying is actually your work and true to you. So sometimes they do a little bit of an in-person assessment to make sure that you can kind of have those competencies without any extra help. You might be asked to do a presentation depending on what the position is. You might be asked to come up with a presentation or maybe just deliver a presentation. Be prepared to speak to a panel. That's something that is kind of civil service had on lock for a while, where these big panel interviews with like 4 or 5 different panelists and each one is asking you questions. It can be a little overwhelming or intimidating, but it really is not meant to be that way. It's just generally a team of hiring managers and HR staff who are looking to make the best hire possible based on merit. So everyone scores at the end of the interview, the candidate, and then they come together and talk about their scores and find who is the highest scoring candidate that they can offer the job to. So that's what why there's sometimes a large number of people on a panel. It could only be 2 people. Usually, ideally, we want 3 people on a panel, but it could be up to like 5 sometimes. All candidates are asked the same questions. You want to answer the question as thoroughly as possible and address all parts of the question and return to questions to add information as needed. Something that's a little bit sneaky within the civil service hiring process is the way we ask our interview questions. They are behavior-based interview questions. So a question could be, tell us about a time when you worked on a team that had differing opinions. What was the conflict? What did you do to mitigate that conflict? And what was the end result? So in that one question, you're addressing like 4 or 5 different questions. And the interview team is specifically looking for those answers to that to each of those questions within that one question. So it's very important that you're addressing all parts of the question and not just talking about the outcome. And then, of course, it's always recommended that you ask a few questions of yourself during the interview. Ask the panel a few questions. If you are going to ask questions, we highly, highly recommend that they are relevant questions. They're pertinent questions. All of these individuals are generally on a tight time schedule. So don't come in asking something that might be able to be found on a website, a departmental website, or current events. Like, now would not be a good time to come into a public health interview and start asking about COVID-19 unless the position you were actually doing involved COVID-19 in some part of the process of that. So kind of keep the current events out of it and try to keep it very specific to the position, be mindful of the interviewer's time, that kind of stuff. But we do want you asking questions so that it shows interest in the position. Quick review, we went over the mission, we talked about the CDPH centers and programs, and then the steps to apply, creating that account, searching for and taking examinations, and then searching for and applying to jobs. So I'm going to hand it back to Mackenzie right now, and she's going to tell us very briefly about our own page and where we post our jobs on our site as well as CalCareers.
Matt, sorry, I was muted there. I am back. So yeah, this is cdph.ca.gov/jobs. This is where, so one nice thing that we do here that CalCareers doesn't, you can't just go onto CalCareers and say, I want an entry-level position, or I want to work in a scientific field. That's just not an option that they provide. So we do that for you. So on our jobs, you can see all these tiles. Let's just say we're looking for an entry-level position. If I was to click on that square in the entry-level position, it's going to bring up this page. It gives you basically a little overview of the 1, 2, 3 again, in case you needed a little refresher. It'll have links to some exams for different entry-level positions, and then it'll list all of our entry-level positions below. As you can see, it has the job control number, which if you click that job control number that's circled in red, it'll direct back to the CalCareers website, so it'll bring up the job posting. And then it has the examination on the same corresponding line. So if you click on the exam link, it'll take you to that examination. So we at CDPH, we realized that the CalCareers website can kind of be a little confusing, so we tried to condense it into one spot. So if you're looking for an entry level with CDPH, it will be listed here daily with the exam on the same line. So we kind of put it in one spot to help a little bit with the confusion of the website. And then we also do want to mention that you can follow us on LinkedIn. We're very active on LinkedIn. We do postings several times a week. We're messaging people. We post all of our jobs on LinkedIn. We're both on there, so you can email us through LinkedIn and get all the valuable information that CDPH is sharing at the moment. And then just here's some contacts. We did reference a lot of this in our presentation. So Candy Linnell, she is our chief of our unit, and I am Mackenzie Day, and Trisha Machado led us through the presentation. And then the apply@cdph.ca.gov email, you can send us any questions about the application process, even if it's in, I know a lot of you aren't graduating until, I saw some 2022 dates. If you're finally ready to start applying for jobs, then say, hey, you guys did a presentation for us 2 years ago. I kind of remember some of the stuff. Can you send me a refresher? And we'll be more than happy to help you even then. It can be in 6 months from now. So if you think about us in 6 months and kind of need a refresher, reach out. And then if you have issues with your account, unfortunately, we don't have control over your actual CalCareers account. So if you get locked out, or if there's a glitch, or if there's issues like that, we did also provide CalCareers their information below if you need to contact them to figure out something with your account. And then,
Yeah,
so Trisha, I did save a few questions.
In order for me to see the chat, I have to stop my screen share. For some reason, it doesn't let me have both.
I'll read that to you then.
Okay,
I'll read
I think
them.
I can. Okay,
No.
do you guys still see my screen with the recruitment contact information? Perfect. Okay, so if I just do a pause share, I can then bring up my chat and see it.
Okay, so the first one that I kind of tabled on, let's see, I believe, there's been a lot. You guys had some really great questions, and I tried to keep up, but some of them I had to table. Okay, let's see. So let's talk a little bit about work permits and visas. Some people had some questions about those. I'll let you address that, and I'll find the next question.
Okay, great. So yeah, Mackenzie, I'll just let you field them off to me then, and I'm going to close my chat and go back to, let's see, go back here. So it's just a little bit more personable. Hopefully you got all that information. Mackenzie's also provided some of our contact information in the chat as well. But visas and work eligibility, we get that question a lot. And no, you do not need to be a U.S. citizen. You do not need to be a California state citizen to work for any state agency within California. Sponsorship is dependent on department and dependent on department policy and requirements. For CDPH, we do offer visa sponsorships. For some positions, it's usually our more critical positions, research positions, medical positions, some higher up positions. Usually at the entry level, not as much. You're not going to see us making that huge leap for kind of like the office assistant, office technician level. But at some of the more critical services level, we definitely offer sponsorships and all that kind of stuff.
Trisha, would an MPH, would an MPH, people with advanced degrees, be considered entry level?
That's a great question, Michelle. So we have entry level, what me and Mackenzie would call entry level positions for more advanced degrees. So if you have your MPH, a really great classification to take a look at is the Health Program Specialist. Mackenzie, if you want to throw that classification title in the chat.
Yeah.
The Health Program Specialist requires a Master's of Public Health, and it's a great career that you can get into. Basically, you're doing health program administration. So you're coming into one of our over 300 programs that Mackenzie had talked about, and you're working on setting policy and expectation and review for that program. And so it's really great because, like she said, within public health, we have so many different areas. So maybe you're passionate about tobacco control and you're going to come into our tobacco control unit and work on setting health policy there, maybe focusing on reducing teen smoking. They also have areas where working on more what they consider high-risk communities or vulnerable communities, and targeting kind of counter-targeting what the tobacco companies are targeting, and working on policy to improve outcomes for smoking cessation and preventing smoking, preventing creating smokers as they get started in their life. So the Health Program Specialist is a really great classification to come in at. You just need your Master's of Public Health or Master's of Healthcare Administration. I always forget that other one. MPH or Masters of Public Health or Masters of Healthcare, MHA, MPH or MHA. I always confuse those two. So either one of those works for that classification, and it goes all the way up to a manager level. So it's a great way to come in. We don't technically consider that entry level, but it is kind of an entry level if you have your Masters of Public Health to get in. It's considered a journey level position by all state standards. But it's a great way to come in and get your foot in the door and get started and build your career with the state.
Great. Thank you, Tricia. Okay, so another one we did that I saw, what's a good strategy for finding classifications that we are qualified for given our degrees and experience? So I know I showed you guys our CDPH tile page. That's kind of great. So if you have a degree in a scientific field, we have a science category, and it's going to go on there. We do realize that CalHR, there's no spot where you can just go, hey, I have my MPH, what can I do? They kind of don't feel that. You do have to do some self-searching and check out those minimum qualifications. But if you're specifically looking to work in public health, we have, you know, there's many exams and jobs posted, but that might be a great place to start, is just filtering through departments first, seeing what kind of jobs we hire for, clicking on them, reading the classification description, because that's going to be the way to find out if you meet those minimum qualifications that we have. It takes a lot of self-searching. Back when I started looking for state positions, I would just type in the word technician or assistant or analyst, something. I would just type in those basic level words that I could think of, and slowly I kind of understood the CalCareers website, because it is kind of confusing. There's no black and white. There's no spot just to go to say, I have my bachelor's. What can I do?
Mackenzie, can I just add, we do have a list of the job classifications that most MPH students would qualify for. So we'll be sharing that with the group as well. But it sounds like we need to expand that list to include our bachelor's level as well as our doctoral level folks. So that's that will be in the future. And then the other thing I want to ask is about the timing piece and the degree, because we do have people who are about to graduate now. So should they be submitting their applications now, even though they don't have their degrees conferred, and they probably won't have their, if let's say they're a spring grad, they won't have their degree conferred until probably August or September?
Yeah, so this was actually one of the questions in the chat it was one of the biggest ones for me. I knew we needed to address this because obviously you guys are all in school and getting close to graduating. Yes and no. I don't know if Tricia knows these specific classifications. Some do allow you to apply up to 6 months before your graduation date, but some no, you cannot, and you will be disqualified if you apply before you actually meet those minimum qualifications. So I don't know if Trisha wants to.
Yeah, so thanks, Mac. I will field that one. So there's a couple examinations that allow what they call early administration. So like if you're within 6 months of completing your application, so if you're going to be graduating here May, June, whatever it might be for your area, that would be considered within 6 months. So if you are looking to take maybe the staff services analyst exam, there is that 6-month buffer. They realize, okay, within 6 months, you're going to have your degree in hand and you'll be eligible. You can go ahead and take it ahead of time, get your eligibility, start applying to jobs, because the process does take quite a bit of time. With other classifications, however, and I do believe that the health program specialist, what we call the HPS, the HPS one does not allow for early entry, so you would have to have your degree in hand before you apply to that exam. The good thing about our HPS list is we just took that exam back in-house. It's once again a public health exam. We used to use it as a shared list, and we're offering it a lot more than when it previously used to be administered. So we're giving more opportunity for tying in those final filing dates with when students are typically graduating spring and winter graduations. And so I think that they've considered that and noted that, and they're trying to work that around when people are getting their degrees in hand more, but that one you would have to wait. But again, you would want to reference the examination bulletin. We'll let you know. You can take this exam up to 6 months in advance and complete your eligibility ahead of time and start applying, or it might say these are the minimum requirements you must have before taking the exam, which would be a completed MPH or MHA, whatever that might be. So.
Cool. Okay, next question.
I saw really quickly, Mac, in the chat, looked like John Joyce had mentioned a couple things I just wanted to touch on because I think it's so important. We get this all the time, talking about how CDPH differs from county and city public health departments. How do we work with those departments? That kind of stuff. I want to highlight again, there is that structure, right? So you have like the global all the way down to county, and even within private sector, like hospitals and stuff like that, they kind of have even their own kind of structure of how they do things. But just super important to remember that we are at the state level. So if you are looking for a county public health position, or potentially wanting to go work for like the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, which is more at the federal level, those are going to be different opportunities. We're at the state level. We set jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction is for California, so we set policy for California. So we're being pulled down from the CDC what is required at a federal level, and then we're creating our own laws specific to California. So our policies are going to only relate to what is the standard for California's laws and regulation.
Trisha, you're breaking up again.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take over for that one.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, so if you can hear me, sorry, I was kind of fielding some more questions as you were speaking. But yeah, I did hear her talk about the levels. There's state, county, city, and we're kind of just at California Department of Public Health. We kind of, I wouldn't say we oversee the others, but we are all of California. So we're like, for example, I live in Sacramento County. Sacramento County is focusing on Sacramento citizens, but CDPH, we're focusing on all Californians. So we're kind of, it's everyone. We're caring for everyone. So I don't know. Let me see. I'm trying to field back to some questions. This chat is not the absolute easiest to scroll through. Okay. We answered John's. Okay. And then I did respond to one. I can't remember if I did it privately or not, but she asked, or someone asked if you're supposed to mention jobs abroad, which did want me to touch on. Yeah, if you're listing experience when applying to a position, list everything. Paid, unpaid. If it was volunteer work, it counts. If it was in another country, it counts. It does not have to be just like a paid, actual, legitimate full-time position. It could be anything. So if you have some experience, make sure you list it, even if it was just some volunteer work. And then let's see. Okay, scrolling down. And then someone else did ask, yes, if you, and I know Trisha touched upon it, if you do not pass an exam for the first time, you can retake it. Eventually, you're not going to be able to take it right away. Each classification can be different. It can be either 6 months. Some make you wait a year to retake, but they're all kind of different. So you do have to do some self-searching on those exam bulletins. Let's see, scrolling down. I know we've had a few new questions pop up. Internship, yes. So internship is a completely different process than hiring for the state. We do have some paid, some unpaid internships. And I did put his email in the chat. His name is Ryan Skaggs. He's our internship coordinator. He handles the processing and intaking and placement of our interns. So I did put his,
Ryan actually no longer doing the program. It has been handed off to another staff member, and very new.
It's still pretty choppy, Trisha. I heard most of that. Could you just put their name in the chat of the new person? You don't know?
No, so go to the website and just bring up the internship page. We can send that link. I'll get that link for the chat right now.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So yes, I guess Ryan used to handle our internship coordinator. I did not know that he does not anymore. But Trisha, if you couldn't hear that, she's going to put the link to the correct internship spot. You can just reach out. And usually we try to match you with your interests. If you're interested in tobacco control, we'll try to get you an internship in there. Some are paid, some are unpaid. Those details are kind of just all worked out as the application process goes through. We do have several different waves of interns. So we do some summer internships. We have spring. It kind of just depends upon the application pool, how many people we want and how many people have applied and when it works out for everyone. So Trisha will be linking that below. Okay, great. Trisha answered this question about the 6 months for the exam. Okay, I know we got a few more questions. Let's see. Okay, we got that. Okay, I'm getting close to the bottom now. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them out. I'm finally caught up from all the ones we got during the presentation. Let's see. So yeah, Brianne did talk about how it is. She did ask me how to find the specific dates for the examinations, and we do know that that can be kind of difficult to find. But if you do the exam search on the job post on the CalCAreer website, you do an exam search, put in the classification, it'll bring up the bulletin, and then if you just read the entire bulletin, usually it's towards the last few pages, it will have all the information, when the next sign-up dates are, when the cutoff dates are right now. Some tests are in person still. It'll say when all of that is. So it'll give you all of that information on the bulletin. No problem. Okay. Okay, on the CalCAreers website, I think that's what I just covered. Okay, does that mean we are ineligible to take the exam for HPS 1 if our expected grad date is May 2020? So for that question, so the way the health program specialist exam works is we do it in waves. So there will be different final filing dates. So I think there's one coming up in April. I don't quote me on that, but I'm 90% sure that one is in April. You would absolutely, I think not along with me, they should apply for that exam. If you're graduating in May and you apply for the exam in April, the timing would work out. But then I also know we have another final filing date in June. So you can, it kind of depends if you're looking to work right away. Trisha, what do you think? Maybe if you can put in the chat. I'm not sure if it needs to be exact, or looks like she is typing. But the good thing is we always do have exams coming. So if you miss the April 17th cutoff, I believe is the date, we have another final filing date in June, just 2 months later. So if you can't get into this one, oh, maybe she's looking up the actual dates. Yes, she is. So Yeah, but the health program specialist one is a super popular classification. We use it all the time. We have several final filing dates throughout every single year. So if you do miss one, there's a good chance that there's going to be another final filing date coming up in the next several months. And I know we have one, I think next final filing date is July 17th. Okay, so if you are graduating in May, apply for the exam on July 17th. Make sure you apply, you send in your application to us before July 17th, and then someone from our exams team will be in contact with you after July 17th. So yeah, we do have several of those throughout the year. So if you do miss them, it's not the end of the world. Of course, you want to get eligibility as soon as possible. But for our more popular classifications like Health Program Specialist 1, we are always posting that exam. Great. Okay, and then we had a question about internships, which Trisha linked. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so Brandon, if you are interested in volunteering, we have set up, there is a website. I don't know if Trisha can link it in there. I believe it is serve.ca.gov. That is where we are taking volunteers at the moment. You can put in your qualifications, you can put in all the information that you have about yourself if you want to help specifically in these times, because they are so new and kind of unforeseen. I mean, we've seen things like this before, but this is all new to us in a different way. So yeah, I think it's www.serve.ca.gov. I'll have Trisha check that just to make sure that is the correct website. But I believe that is where we are intaking volunteers right now, because we've had a lot of wonderful, amazing people reach out. Perfect. So yep, I'm gonna put it in the chat. It's serve, oh, Trisha did it, great. Or Caitlin did, thank you. Serve.ca.gov. So you can go ahead and put all your information there, and then we have people fielding those responses and directing you to the right place. And thank you for reaching out and being interested in helping.
Well, Mackenzie, I know you have been rapid fire answering questions in the chat and now in real time as well. As we wrap up our time together, do you have any last tips for students? Particularly, I know there were a couple things around just for those who maybe have graduation dates a little bit further out, anything they could be doing to learn more about the work of CDPH, how they might position themselves to be strong applicants, or even how to network in the department. Any advice there? Either you or Trisha, feel free to chime in too on the chat.
Yeah, so that's a great thing. So as you're approaching your dates of graduation, you're going to want to start applying as soon as possible, get employment after you graduate. CDPH.ca.gov, that is a great tool. I'm still learning about CDPH. I've worked for the state for 3 years and just hit over a year at CDPH. And with it being such a large department, there is a lot to learn. So you might have noticed some of the CDPH specific questions I kind of fielded to Trisha, because there's just so much. So cdph.ca.gov, there's some great resources, and I'm on there all the time. If I have some free time, I just go and click around on our different programs, our different areas, because we are so versatile. There's so much to learn. That's a great start to kind of figure out, okay, I like what this area is doing. This is piquing my interest over here. You can play it around with our different programs and centers. So that's a great way to learn about who we are and what we do. Another great way to network is LinkedIn. We're on there all the time. Sometimes we'll have hiring managers on there messaging people as well. So that's a great place to get to know some CDPH faces. We do weekly, I think it's twice a week, update posts, really great content that Trisha creates to talk about what's going on at CDPH. And just kind of be knowledgeable about who we are, what we do. If you're going into an interview with tobacco control program, you want to go on the website and check that out first. And then just, it's never too early to start. I mean, I played around on the CalCareers website for months before I started seriously applying. Like a ton of you have said, and we know, and everyone who works for the state has been through the process, it is not user friendly. It can be difficult. I probably sent out 60 applications before I got my first interview. Of course, I was very young and wasn't doing things right. I didn't go to a webinar people who explained it like we just did. I was kind of on my own. So don't get discouraged. It does happen. You are going to have to probably send out several apps. You may not get the first one you apply for, but that is extremely common. You are in the same boat as hundreds of other people, that you're not the only one. So just stay positive, stay determined, and of course, reach out to us. I mean, we are always there to help. Part of my job, we do job fairs and we go to places, but my favorite part is just helping people who are trying to get their foot into the state, because I was in their shoes one time. I had, there wasn't really any resources. So if I can help people and explain the process and make it just a little bit easier, that's what we're there for. So if you have any questions, even if they seem silly, I'm sure they're not. I'm sure 150 other people have the same question that you are thinking right now.
Well, thank you so much, Mackenzie. Trisha, you've been a huge resource to us, our students. I know for those who will get to listen on to the recording as well. So we really appreciate you taking the time, especially during these uncertain circumstances, and helping make this process more clear. So all of those still on the call, thank you for hanging on too. We hope this was helpful and look forward to keeping in touch with everyone. So stay safe, stay healthy, and take good care.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much for having us, and everyone stay safe and stay home and stay healthy.